Okay, let's quickly cover the first lab, which not everyone got a chance to finish. So we're going to create just a very basic program to collect a list of numbers from a person and to sum those numbers up. So let's start with the collection. Before we do that, let's create our starting point. So when the flag gets clicked in Sprite, the program gets started. If you look at the running program window, it has a little green flag. When they click the green flag, then that program gets started. So let's add to this a couple of calls to subroutines, and we'll call the first subroutine init. And notice that that's in the control menu. The subroutine is going to be called init. So when I receive an init, I'm going to initialize my variables. Let's have another subroutine that actually gets the input from the end user. And we'll call this one collect numbers. We'll have another subroutine that does the sum. Notice I'm selecting the broadcast and wait instead of the broadcast, because the broadcast would make those run in parallel, and we would like those to wait. So they run sequentially, or one at a time. So we're going to call this one sum. And when I get collect numbers, this will get called. And when I get sum, this one will get called. Alright, so start with init. We want to initialize some variables, so we need to create some variables. So we'll have one variable called index. Notice I went to the variable button, clicked make variable. Call this index. This will be the location in the list. We'll make another variable called sum. This will be adding up the various items in the list as we iterate through it, or as we loop through the list. Now we're going to make a list called numbers. I notice that I clicked the make a list button there. And this is called numbers. Now, when initialize gets called, we want to set the index to 0. And then we want to clear the number list. Got a drop down box here. We're going to change this to all. And then we're going to set the index, the sum, to 0 as well. So the next part, so that was initializing those variables. Now let's collect. So I'm going to go to the sensing, and we're going to ask them for a number. Enter a number. The answer, whenever you ask the end user for something, the answer is the value that the end user entered in. When they hit return, then you get that value. So we're going to set the value into the list. So we'll use the add. So add, going back to, that was under variables, now we're going to sensing, add the answer to the list of numbers. If I hit the command button at the same time that I hit the mouse, this is for a Mac. For a PC, you would right click, and then I can duplicate this, so I don't have to keep entering in the same thing. We'll duplicate it again, and now it's asking 4 times. Later we'll do that with a loop. Right now, let's do that, and then the sum. For the sum, I want to iterate through the numbers. So in order to iterate, I'm going to use control. I'm going to pick the repeat until. So here's my repeat until. I'm going to have that. When the index is greater than the length of the index is greater than the length of the list, the numbers list, then we want to stop the loop. So there's the length of the numbers list. Here is our index. Here's our operator, our greater than. So now we can build this up. We drag and drop that there. We drag the variable there. We drag the length of numbers there. I'm going to move this off screen. Give us a little more room. When we come in, we could also set the index to 0 because we know that we're about to loop through all the values. So just to make sure that that's set to 0. Now we come into the sum, we set the index to 0. Now we want to increment the index on every iteration of the loop. You can do that by using the change. So change index by 1. That means it's going to increase it by 1. So if there's 5 items in the list, it'll be 0, then it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on 6 it's going to stop and exit the loop. This is a loop, repeat until. So we're going to keep repeating that. Okay, so we have the numbers, we're change the index. Now let's set the sum. And we want to set the sum to the value of the current iteration. And the value of the current iteration is going to be in the index. So let me see, does that look right? Looks right, so let's try it out. Click it. I'm typing in 5. The little cat's asking me to type in 5. Typing in 5 again, 5 again, 5 again, and it went through. You can see it goes very quick. So let me do that again. This time I'm going to do it in slow motion. So you can set the single stepping rate under Edit, and we'll put it in slow motion. Now I'm going to click the flag, and let's just drag this so you can kind of see what's going on here. When I click the flag, you should see the program step through. We click it, and everything was cleared. It's asking me to enter in the number. That's happening off screen. It's asking me again. You can see it's asking me again. Asking me again. And now it's going to add those numbers up. You can see it's iterating through the index. The index is increasing. And the sum is summing up those values. Left out a step, didn't I? So here we just setting sum equal to the current value. What we really want to do is add it. So I had a bug. So we're going to go back and we're going to add the current value to the sum. So the sum accumulates the value. Go to variables, sum, we drag that over, run it again. Okay, so I've moved things over a little bit so you can actually see what's going on over here. I'm going to hit the click, hit the green flag. It emptied the list, you'll notice. Now it's asking me to enter in a number. See the little cat's asking me. I'm going to hit 5, return, 5, return, 5, return. You can see them getting added to the list. You can also see what step we're on here. It turns up yellow. 5, return. Now it's iterating through the list. You notice the sum should be increasing. Now it's 10, Notice also when it iterates, it turns that area white. So we're in the 3rd index. Now we're in the 4th index. And now the sum is 20. 5, 10, 15, 20. So that's the very first lab. Well, not the very first, but that's the lab from last week.